Hi everyone, my name is Hunter and I read Crime and Punishment. I'm going to just talk about my general feelings on the book and some things to take away. Don't really take these as a review, they're just how I see things. I guess that's a review technically, but it's a little different. Some general backstory. My brother moved recently, well, a few months ago, from the northeast of the States down to the south. He has a ton of books, way more books than me. He's basically hoarding them, and I told him this is a good time to curate your collection, get rid of things you don't need. He didn't really listen to me, but what he did do is he sent me homework. So he sent me Crime and Punishment. This was his copy, it's now my copy. And basically, he knew that I had enjoyed The Count of Monte Cristo and I had been sort of on a classics kick of late. And this, according to him, was his English professor's favorite book in high school. Why did I say English professor? This was his English teacher's favorite book in high school. They said, and they claimed, that this is the best book of all time. It's not. But I don't even like this book, but we'll get there. Anyway, he told me that there was a particular chapter where it's just amazing, that it's just amazing the whole time and there's all this payoff. I think he was trying to relate to how I saw The Count of Monte Cristo. If you've seen my review or thoughts on this channel about that, basically in The Count of Monte Cristo, for the first 1,000 pages, I think about 400 could be cut. But when you get to page about, I think it's 1,050 to 1,150 in the book, it's just amazing. It's probably the best stuff I've ever read because it's just payoff after payoff after payoff for like 3 consecutive chapters. And it's amazing, just great stuff. Love The Count of Monte Cristo. So I was excited because I was hoping that in this book, it's smaller, so I was hoping to get about 1/3 of that. So I've been on this classics kick mainly because ever since I graduated from my English program, shout out U of I struggle with finding out what books to read. There's just so much content coming out. It's very difficult. It seems like BookTube and, whatever, all the Instagram stuff, it's too much. And the content is usually curated by either really pretentious men or more often by women. The truth is just men and women often have different taste. As most of you probably know, books are dominated by women. There's more female writers, there's more female readers. It's just the free market at work. Since women buy more books, the market is going to produce more books for women. A good example of this was I recently went to Idaho for a friend's wedding, and one of my friends from U of I's English department works at a bookstore, and I told her that I really wanted to get Blood Meridian, which I have on my shelf because I'm almost through reading it. And she told me, oh, this is such a boy book, which I laughed about because it's Cormac McCarthy and I just knew inherently what she meant. This is very much a boy book to me. But then we started talking about how I was reading Crime and Punishment and she just said, why? And I was like defending it before I had actually read very much of it. And I was like, it's a classic. I mean, how could you not read it? And then she said, well, I could read 3 contemporary books by the time it takes you to get through that one. And there's so many books coming out, why would I waste my time on it? Now, at that time, I was defending Crime and Punishment. It pains me to say that she was totally correct, and I rather would have read 3 contemporary books than the time it took me to slog through this, because it was a slog, it was difficult, I did not enjoy my time with this. But that is all to say that since I'm not super plugged in to what's coming out all the time, and the books that are coming out often aren't catered to my tastes, I've been on basically a classics kick, so I've been doing some good work there, and this is the latest one I read. So, another note, if you've seen this channel, you know I can barely speak English. It's gonna be really tough for me to pronounce these Russian names, so I'm not even gonna try. Everyone's gonna have a nickname, but yeah. So, a good example is, let me try to pronounce the name of this writer. I'm gonna say Dostoevsky. 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 See, not even going to try. So, failed that one. Main character of the book.
Raskolnikov.
Raskolnikov. I'm not going to be able to say that or remember that. I really struggled with the names in this book. I understand this is translated from Russian, but when you're translating it, I know this might be a ridiculous idea, but could you change the names so they're more English oriented? For example, our main character, his name is what was just pronounced. And then he has a nickname. And then I believe he has a second nickname. Additionally, his best friend in the book, the one who's in love with his sister, also has a name that's very close to his name. Now, I don't know if that's like an intentional thing in Russian, because essentially this character is like the foil of our main character, and he's who he is if he made better decisions and takes care of his family. So basically takes care of our main character's sister and mother. Maybe it was intentional that their names were the same, or maybe in Russian the names aren't actually that close. In this Signet Classic version of it, they kept the names, so everyone's gonna have a nickname, and that's how I'm gonna go through it. So going through the book, I understand, classics a lot of the time, except Count of Monte Cristo. Count of Monte Cristo comes out and it's a banger. They take some time to build. This book takes a lot of time to build, and there is not much payoff. So I think there was 2 great chapters in this entire book. The crime is the first good chapter, and so you have to slog through about 70 to 100 pages to get to the first good chapter in this book. And it's excellent. There's just great stuff there. So basically, our main character takes a axe and he slams it into this old lady's head and splits it open. And the description's quite good, and I enjoyed it. I was like, oh shit, I really got into it. I enjoyed that moment. But then there's a unexpected person in the room, and they're a witness, so of course they gotta go too. So he gets another one with the axe. Great moment, love that whole thing. Now, everything after that kind of sucks. He does everything he can to be the most suspicious person in the world. So our main character falls under fever. He's in and out of consciousness all the time. He's constantly worried and all around this murder, and everyone knows he's in the area of the murder. And he's the only one that doesn't go to the police to talk to them, to give his statement. He's doing everything he can to get caught. When the police talk to him, he acts like, oh, I didn't murder anyone. You can't accuse me of anything. You have no evidence. What are you talking about? And it's just super painful because he's supposed to be this smart law student, and he's constantly bickering back and forth with the cop, but he's making it so clearly obvious that he killed someone. The whole time I was reading, and I was like, how dumb do you have to be able to get caught back in the day for murder? Because now if you murder someone, you're screwed, right? There's DNA evidence. You have to wipe the whole scene. I mean, if they find a speck of it, right? And even if you're not in the system, they can trace it to DNA websites. They can find your third cousin, and then they'll know you're in the family tree, right? You're gonna get caught if you murder someone now, right? There's basically no way of getting away with it unless it's like a complete stranger. But if you're killing a neighbor, done, you're gonna get caught. This guy did everything he could to get caught. Basically, our character thinks of himself as a Napoleon figure, right? That the only reason things weren't justified for him is because he didn't accomplish great things by the end of the book. So if he murdered someone, but then he was to go and do and accomplish great things and help the world, no one thinks about that murder as a negative. They just see it as essentially part of the lore of who this character was, like their origins. And so he had this impression of himself that he was a Napoleon-like figure, but he needed an inciting incident, which is essentially he needed to get away from his poverty so that he could self-support himself, get back into school, basically get back on the rails of his life. And he just needed to commit this one crime, which was a murder for money. So robbery and murder. And then everything would be okay. However, he never tries to execute that plan because, guilt overtakes him. There's a whole lot of like Christianity in here. I mean, if you read any book pre 1900, right? It's just infested with Christianity. And I don't mean that in a derogatory sense. I just mean that like Christianity is in every page of these books, of these texts. Stuff that I thought was handled a lot better in the Count of Monte Cristo and not handled super well here. Just when you're reading a book, you know if you're enjoying it, and you can feel when you're slogging through the pages and you're counting down for it to get done versus like being like, oh, I'm very excited. And just the pace you're reading really determines if you like a book, in my opinion. If you can knock out a book in a couple weeks, like a giant book, like I knocked out Count of Monte Cristo in 2 weeks, I think. And I think this took me over 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks to get through. It's up there. This was near 2 months to get through. And the page count is a third. So our main character's sister is married to a man named Peter Petrovich. I related to him in a lot of ways. So I want to read you this passage. Peter Petrovich had pulled himself up by his own bootstraps. He was morbidly used to admiring himself. He had a high opinion of his mind and abilities. Sometimes, when he was alone, he used to admire his face in the mirror. What he loved and valued most, however, was the money he had made by hard work in other ways. It was his money that made him the equal of everything higher than himself. So basically, Peter thinks he can use his money to marry a girl of lower status and secure her love because she is dating upward because of his wealth, and he's dating her for his beauty, right? And so he's a narcissist. I enjoyed that and highlighted that passage because I recognized some of myself in this character, types of my narcissism and like my narcissistic traits. So like admiring himself in the mirror and different things like that, I all related to. And also the idea of having money and being proud of working your way up from being poor and using that as like, oh, I've made it. I've noticed I have like a lot of similar traits. And I could imagine that if I were to ever truly make it to where I wanted to one day, that I could get to a higher level of narcissism because it's more like justified. I think it's really important that everyone recognizes these traits in themselves. And a very extreme example, everyone thinks that if they were living in Nazi Germany, that they would be the ones to protect Jewish people, not put them on trains, not give them to, the SS, etc. But what people need to realize is that within every human being is the capability, the evil, to be that person that does those things. So you just need to be aware of all these things. And I was just able to recognize my narcissism a bit in this character and in this passage. So I thought that was a good spot. Our main character is in a relationship with a prostitute. Sonia's awesome, actually. She's probably my favorite character in the book. She is a great woman. She is a prostitute, but she's a prostitute because, she just needed to raise, she had to have money. And you got to do what you got to do. And so she's selling what she has available to her, which is her body. But she is a good moral character, and she stands beside our main character for no reason. He is an absolute scumbag, and she's still just loyal to him, which objectively is not a good thing, but I do respect that kind of blind loyalty still. Even though I do think it is foolish, it is refreshing to see that kind of blind loyalty. There's an amazing chapter here. Not amazing, but this is the third best chapter. He confesses to her that he murdered those two people and committed the robbery. The thing is, the prostitute was friends with the younger girl that he murdered. Yet, she forgives him and says it was the devil that made you do it. And he explains like his Napoleon complex and all this stuff. She's still beside him. She still sticks with him. And it's just a really good chapter where she really hears him out. And in the end, it feels like he's trying to push her away. But we get a good crack in our main character where he realizes that this girl will not push him away. So my favorite chapter near the end of the book, around page 460, is when this man who was in love with our main character's sister, so not who she was engaged to, the engagement ends. There was another man who's obsessed with her. His wife died. He either poisoned her or she died of natural causes. And he has come to her city to find her. Tells the sister that I know your brother murdered these people. So this is the first time she heard of it. And he's like, just love me, marry me. I can take care of it. We can all run away to America. I have the funds. We can do this. We can make a go at this. She gets very defensive, doesn't believe it. It seems that she does believe it eventually. But this man basically makes a rape threat. He tricks her into his apartment and shuts the door, tricks her on a false premise that there will be other people there. There are none. There are no neighbors. And so she gets very worried about that this guy's going to rape her. And he is very aggressive and he does like tease the rape. It's very rapey. But then she gets a gun and she starts to like threaten him. She's like, back the fuck up. I will kill you. Good stuff. Really good stuff. The better part is that he calls her on it and he's like, okay, shoot me then. And then she shoots and I think it misfires. And then he's like, reload, you get two more shots. And so, she rotates the barrel, shoots again. This one like grazes him on the head, I think, and he's bleeding out. And then he walks even closer and he's like, you're not going to miss me this time, shoot again. And then she freaks out and tosses the gun. And then she basically assigns herself to like getting raped. And then he steps back. I think he gives her the key and she unlocks the door and she flees. But it's an amazing chapter that I wish I could tell you is worth reading the book for, because it is really good stuff. It is amazing stuff, but it is not worth reading this entire book to get to that chapter. The chapter my brother had told me about was when the cop was interrogating our main character for the first time. I was not impressed by it. I thought it was very bad. I think I texted my brother and I said, was that the fucking chapter that you thought I would like? The conclusion to the book is pretty decent as well. I think it's a bit too forgiving. It's in that Christian sense where our main character is reborn. He serves his time and it seems like it's all going to work out for them. I don't share that sentiment. This man is a piece of shit. He murdered 2 people and then he didn't even follow through and use the money to accomplish what he wanted to. So just very disappointing, just super unrealistic. This guilt is just burning you up and it causes a fever, and he's just the most obvious person in the world as the murder suspect. Another thing when you read classics is there's always marriage, and there's always these same stories of, oh, I love him, I don't love him, I fell in love with him, I fell in love with her. And it's a very boring thing the more you read these, because I don't know, maybe marriage is just much less serious in our society, but in all these books, it was like marriage. Oh, we need some drama, sprinkle in some marriage drama. And that was the good stuff for them, but I did not enjoy it. I know another one of his books are recommended, the Brothers one. I saw a YouTube review where it said you have to get through like 500 pages before it gets good. That's insane. I don't plan on ever doing that, because that's like the One Piece people who are like, oh yeah, just watch 300 episodes. I swear it gets good, bro. I'm not going to watch 300 episodes of your anime. I'm not going to read 500 pages of your book, which is this. Read this entire book before the other book gets good. I refuse to do that. But yeah, I mean, maybe you're a classics person and you're going to think I'm an idiot for my thoughts on all this, but that's okay, because your book sucks and it's boring. Don't read this unless you have to for school or something. I honestly think you can skip this. I don't think you're going to get a lot out of it. I don't think this is going to make you that much better of a writer. My next book, though, I am very excited to talk about, which is going to be Blood Meridian. I'm going to finish this in less than 2 weeks. So hopefully I get this video out next week. But yeah, I'm very excited to talk about this, because this is writing. This is great stuff, guys. This is...
If you talk all the time, you'll never hear what anybody else has to say. And therefore, all you'll have to talk about is your own conversations.